First up, a huge thank you to Panenka Bar and Grill for supporting the channel. You can find us there before every home game and post game, either celebrating or drowning our sorrows. It's a great premium bar and it's situated less than half a mile from beautiful downtown Bramall Lane.
Also, a huge thank you to Parrot Peel. They are a virtual band who create innovative musical experiences just for you. But you already knew that, didn't you? We've been talking about them for long enough. But please do go to parrotpeel.com and check them out because they are awesome. Ale, ale, ale. Ale, ale, ale. Ale, ale, ale.
Well, you were expecting Nicholas and his little face, but you've got me. Just should say right from the outset, poor Nick and Ollie, they actually had the car breakdown on the way to watch this game at the Swansea.com stadium. So it is Hal doing this match reaction. And as we speak, I've no idea where they currently are. And hopefully they've managed to get towed or got a lift or something. So, bad day for them. Really bad day for the Blades. I am usually quite a calm, mild-mannered guy. It takes quite a lot for me to get overexcited or get angry or whatever, but I feel like I'm starting to worry. I'm certainly frustrated. This is beginning to hurt deeply. I didn't see this. Did not see this coming. Now, a lot of people know that I felt quite strongly that Chris Wilde did a really good job last season and kind of deserved to have a go again. But that's by the by, because, okay, new ownership, they're allowed to bring in their own guy. And fair enough, Ruben Sayers, okay, wouldn't have been top of my list, but actually spoke really well, and I heard a lot of encouraging things. What is going wrong? If you've watched this long enough, that I always want your thoughts. I know my thoughts. They're already in my head. That's boring. I want to know what you think. What is going on? Why is this not working? Is it a simple case of it's a new style, a new system, and it's going to take time? Because I don't know about that after watching today. To me, there was a bit more of a concern around, a bit more of a worrying sign, which was actually players not giving 100%. Now, that's just my take. Might be way offline. I'm sure they would tell me I am. But I'm going to go through what I saw, and you tell me what you think. So if we look at the starting lineup, the Blades lined up with an expected team. Maybe you'd have had Brooks in there from the start, but the Blades lined up with Cooper in goal, a back four, Sariki, Robinson, Bindon, and Burrows, Gus Harmer, Peck, Sumare, who I like. I think I've seen enough now to tell me he's going to be a pretty decent player. Across the middle, up top, sort of. You got Barry, O'Hare, and Campbell. Before I get into this, I will just say it might be a little bit difficult sort of going through all of this and trying to find some positives in a really drab game, but stick with me because I've got some thoughts around kind of the intricacies of how this one played out. And also, we're all Blades. It'd be very easy now to say, no, we're going to sort of just disassociate. Apathy is actually the most dangerous thing you can ever do with a football club. I was always going to support the team my dad followed, but there have been times in my life I wish he'd been born in Madrid, although knowing him, he'd probably have picked Rayo Vallecano. Now, straight away in this game, Swansea could have taken the lead. We're talking minute one, a shot from Josh Tymon just wide after a clearance fell to him on the edge of the area. And that really set the tone because it was a case of Swansea would have more chances, but they wouldn't necessarily be good enough to take lots of them. Louis Barry had the beating of Josh King early on. He's got quick, tricky feet. I like Barry, the number 27, winning United's first corner on 8 minutes, which nearly led to a goal, actually. Robinson heading over with the Swans keeper, Vigouroux, doing enough vigorously to actually put him off. But these are few and far between, these kind of moments of excitement for the Blades. Sumare, he was studied in the midriff by Eom and the ref didn't stop play. The number 8 for Swansea, Yalkue, just kept going and fired a shot at Cooper, who saved really well. And the rebound was blocked by the Blades defence too. The ref, Thomas Kirk, incidentally, was a League One ref predominantly last season. We did take charge of one Blades game. It was our 2-1 away win. Remember those away wins? That was at Loftus Road, where he gave a very rare penalty for him. He only gave 8 in the 34 matches that he officiated all of last season. And it didn't look today like he was ever going to give a penalty. He's been promoted this season to cover Championship, and even he might get some Premier League games, so we can keep a little eye He's apparently a ref on the rise, but I thought he was quite a frustrating referee today. In fact, Harmer was booked on 15. He got that one right. That was a bad foul on Galbraith, a player that the Blades have actually been linked with before. Tyler Bindon had some good moments in the first half. At times I've seen, for the first 3 games, he's looked strong. He reads the game quite well. Some misplaced passes, but also some encouraging moments. Looks like he needs more game time if he's going to build any kind of partnership with Sariki. And I'm not sure he is, because I don't know if Sariki is going to be the long-term right-back answer. Generally, though, I thought our back line looked really fragile. I thought it looks like it's lacking a leader. It looks like it's lacking someone to organise. I'm sure Jack Robinson will believe that he is that man, but it does look disorganised. On 25, we did cause a bit of havoc after a good throw-in from Jack Robinson. Wild clearance from Swansea. The ref gave a free kick as Ronald pretended he was hurt, and he did. He'd be the first to admit this. And the ref actually could have called his bluff and forced him to go off to see a physio. And Jack Robinson was not pleased with Ronald for doing that, and argued with the ref as well. Not unlike him to argue with a referee. Burrows and Barry could be an exciting combination. Could being the operative word. We saw flashes. We saw moments of them linking up down the left-hand side. Burrows had a long-range shot on 34 following a pass from Bindon that was deflected for a corner. He then had another from the opposite side, the left of the box. I think it was quite busy, actually. Burrows in the first half, not so much the second, but that resulted in another corner, a sustained spell of possession, attacking intent, but we couldn't make anything of it, and that would be the case for the majority of the game. Callum O'Hare, at times in the first half, if you look at him off the ball, was actually working quite hard. He was clearly following the instructions, the Sayers instructions of pressing and creating space. And I think he was looking frustrated. Harmer was looking frustrated. 5 minutes were added onto a wretched half. Barry, kind of the only bright spark of fleeting moments of excitement, but otherwise we looked totally devoid of ideas for ways to unlock a fairly pedestrian defence, totally different from what we saw in pre-season. The ref gave a few decisions that perplexed me, soft free kicks, but ignored some sort of agricultural challenges like, studs in the stomach. 0-0 at the break. Swansea with more of the ball, 68% possession that first half. United not testing the goalkeeper once, but Cooper certainly was. In fact, the Swans managed 5 shots and 2 on target. And into the second half we would go, and I thought we would see a tremendously different Sheffield United, a real response. Sayers would get into them and say that was totally unacceptable. But if anything, the second half was worse. Sumare, he does look comfortable on the ball. He shields it well. He appears strong. He can clearly tackle. I felt, though, he didn't have, particularly in this second half, kind of any midfield support. Gus, I feel, also felt like he was lacking options around him. He was trying things. Not quite the Gus we know. In fact, at times, it was just really frustrating to watch. But the whole system, I have to say, does not feel fluid at all. Swansea, who are no great shakes, they had a shot. Then they had another shot following a soft free kick given away by Callum O'Hare on 47, which really was not a free kick. But the home side even appealed for a penalty in this kind of attacking spell. It was a appeal in vain. It wasn't a penalty. It hit the arm, but the arms were in a natural position. I think it was Robinson. And they won a corner as that final shot whistled past Cooper's near post. It was a really positive start for the Swans, and they were just a better side. And a better Swansea side, I would say, as well, because they're not a great team. But they would have been a goal up already early on in the second half. But they looked at times an average side. But we looked so much poorer. Cooper making a good save on the hour mark. Changes were needed. Changes were needed aplenty. Probably more the system, though, than the personnel. But we saw personnel changes and the same system. That was on 62. Both sides actually making changes. Inusa and Waddell on for the Swans. United taking off Tyrese Campbell, who I think summed up the general feeling with the Blades players at the moment. He looked really unhappy. Tom Cannon came on, and I think Ruben Sayers is trying to get Tom Cannon to be a central striker because he's tried him in all sorts of other positions and it just hasn't worked. So he put him on up front and, he did absolutely nothing. And Swansea, a deserved goal. They got that on 66. Ronald, who was really, really busy in this game, scoring with his right foot after an initial mishit shot from Franco, was not quite what he would have wanted with the full connection, but it was brilliantly blocked. So we'll give a bit of praise for the Blades' defence there. But it was not dealt with after that by United. Ronald hit it from the edge of the box, and the number 35, who set up the chance himself, actually, he was the one with the strong running, just placed it into the back of the net. Cooper did as well as he could. I think he got a hand to it, but it wasn't enough. I think my frustration was with Peck, who was jogging back, and he certainly heard about that from some of his teammates after the goal. There was a few instances where players were talking to Peck. Peck did not have a great game today. He will be the first to admit that. He gave the ball away straight after the goal, and we saw a really frustrated Soumare forced into a foul because of the misplaced pass, and he really was angry. He actually threw the ball away. He also touched the referee's shoulder. You can't put hands on the ref. He got a yellow card. The body language from United, though, at this point was really poor. It wasn't the kind of heads up, let's go. It was, if anything, it was heads down, and Swansea were in the ascendancy. They should have had a second, actually, on 73, when the sub, Iannusa, it was very busy, the Swede, just missed the target. Although I believe Cooper had it covered because he is such a good goalkeeper. I said in pre-season he was going to have a lot more to do, but I actually thought from seeing the pre-season games, we were going to create a lot more. We were going to have a lot more of the ball than the opposition. That hasn't been the case at all. On 75, Ronald missed one at the far post after brilliant build-up play, a wicked cross. It was Binder who got the final touch, but should have been a goal. Binder did well, but should have been a goal. And Swansea had now missed 3 gilt-edged chances. This is what I'm saying. The second half was not the turnaround. Sheehan got into Swansea players and did exactly what I would have wanted Ruben Sayers to do, because they came out second half looking like a side that wanted to win a game. We would see more changes. Barry off, who had far less opportunities to impress in the second. Soumare also went off. That was fatigue because he did well. Brooks and One came on. One looked really good in pre-season. That's probably all I'll say about that. Strong appeal for a penalty on 86 minutes for the Blades as Cannon went down. O'Hare played in Cannon, but when I say strong appeal, I mean, if you're in the ground seeing that, you think it's a penalty. If you see it again, the striker leaned in. I mean, I'm now going to say striker with Tom Cannon because he has not shown anything. He leaned into the Swansea defender. He was looking for it. This was actually good refereeing. He didn't fall for it at all. Poor from Cannon, as I felt he could have actually got the ball, and he was so close, he could have had a close-range shot. You're a striker devoid of regular chances and goals. Why would you do that? Only had a chance after Gus played him in on 91 minutes. This is the minutes I've written down. Like, these are the exciting moments. We're already at 91 minutes. I felt Gus should have had the shot himself, but he laid it onto One. Maybe he was really tired. I don't know. But I'm clutching at straws for positive moments for the Blades. It really was tepid stuff. A really awful game of football from a United point of view. I'm sure Swansea will be delighted. Their fans will probably enjoyed this. They will either be a playoff contender or bang average mid-table. It is so hard to tell against a side so blatantly lacking in team cohesion, with a bunch of players who seem like they don't believe in the project or the ideas. Well, if they don't, they might have to just buck their ideas up, because I'm sure all of us in our regular day-to-day jobs, we don't always agree with the hierarchy or maybe a new boss that's come in, but you've kind of got to get on with it, and you've got to get on with it well. I felt after this game, which ended 1-0 to Swansea, if you didn't see any of the game and you're just following it through me, well, first of all, I feel sorry for you. That's a terrible way to do it, but I wish we'd gone up. I wish we'd gone up. I wish we'd gone up for so many reasons. You might have seen the video I did with Nick at the end at Wembley. I was devastated, and I was devastated for so many reasons. One of the biggest ones, though, was I felt like we had to go up. We had to go up because, yes, you lose every week, you play poorly, and there's a few moments of excitement, but we're having that now. But we haven't got the money. Well, we'd have got the money, and it would have meant we'd also finally have won at Wembley. So it would have been absolutely fantastic. But let's get into your thoughts. What on earth did you make of that? Please give this video a like, because whilst we're not contractually obliged to do these videos, it's really hard after a defeat. I'm going to just do them in order. I haven't read any of these in advance, so try not to swear. Thanks. My nephews watch this. Justin says, I was actually in favour of a new manager and a fresh start with new ownership, but I didn't expect them to fumble it so badly. So that's Justin sort of putting the kind of onus on Ruben Sayers. And you know what? After that Birmingham City match, I kind of thought, these are the tactics are not working. These are still good players. These are players that really did well last season. I know we've lost a lot of good players, and we haven't replaced any of them with anyone better. In fact, I'm not going to get into breakdowns of each one. This probably isn't the time for that. But this is still a squad that's better than a side that came up from League One, I think. Call me crazy. Cree 73, the owners said they are taking us in a new direction as they got rid of Wilder, and now a lot of players. I think we know which direction. I've had a few people say to me that they're now genuinely concerned about relegation. I'm not there yet. I genuinely believe we've got a good squad. I really, really do. We've just got to figure it out. And that either means the players have to adapt to the Ruben Sayers way of doing things, or Ruben's got to change it. Because these are players that have been playing under Chris Wilder. And Chris Wilder, it wasn't still playing the overlapping centre-backs and all that, but he had a way of just getting his ideas across and getting them across. So simple, such simple ideas. Chris Wilder, I always believe, is a manager that doesn't think the game of football is a ridiculously complicated game. It's a very, very simple game. And I felt like he has a way of conveying his message, which is really, really simple for players to understand. I don't know. I've never been in the locker room with Ruben Sayers, and that'll probably remain the case. Oki Blade says Sayers hasn't got a good squad to work with, but he's made what he has got into a clueless team with no focal point or strategy. Stubborn, no plan B. Yes, I saw that today. Change the system. Got to have a plan B. Now, good managers make average players better, and bad managers make good players average. I'm not sure. I think Ruben Sayers is a really good coach. I do. I've watched enough. I've read enough. I've heard from fans who, particularly Reading fans, who really rate him. He's very intelligent and he speaks very well. Sometimes it just takes time. And I'm sure Ruben will believe that his ideas, when he gets them conveyed and when he gets some of his own players in, it will work. There's also the other side of that, which is some clubs it just doesn't work for some managers, even if they're good managers. We have seen that with other teams as well. The board have made a bad decision by removing Chris Wilder. Sayers is not fit for the job. Some pretty strong words from Mike. We are now back to the bad old days. Look, we haven't had enough games to quite say that, but we feared, Nick and I spoke about this before in other of our videos, that if we started badly, Blades fans could turn with good reason, because if something isn't broken, you don't necessarily need to fix it. 92 points last season, missing out just. And Danny says Sayers out, and there will be others feeling like that. The question is, would that actually make a difference? Because I think some of the issues are further up. Richard Day says attacking brand of football. That's what we were promised. Yes, that is what we were promised. The trap door is open, people. Luke says clearly owners need to pull their finger out because we aren't even making chances at this moment in time. The team look lost for ideas or even how to play football. Always on the back foot. Mike says players haven't bought into his new system. I mean, they haven't. Absolutely. Mike Bolger agreeing with what I was saying there. How long is it going to take? Pre-season did look encouraging, although, as you know, if you watch these regularly, the way I like a pre-season done, I'm not a football manager who would listen to me. The way I like a pre-season done is very, very different. Not playing teams that are way below your level, but playing teams that are on your level. And then you get a much better idea, I think, of where you are. We played one team, Nice, which I thought gave us a yardstick, and we lost. Chick, he hasn't done anything in his previous roles, and the team don't want to play for him. Now, we're guessing, it's conjecture, the team don't want to play for him. The body language today suggests the team don't want to play for him, but who knows behind closed doors? They might be more frustrated with themselves. I don't know. Defo Corzard, it's getting hard to trust the process. Not one shot on target, not a single attacking highlight. Something needs to change fast. Owners need to invest more. Yet, you know what? Birmingham as well. There was no moments of excitement, apart from a non-repeatable action of our worldie, a Puskas nomination for goal of the century from Gus Harmer. You cannot rely on that. We are not creating. We are looking gutless. Luke's is just gutted because was really wanting to really exciting flowing forward. You're making this one's hard to read. I'm going to be honest, Luke. This is some interesting words here, but I'm going to try and figure it out. Exciting, forward-flowing football, and just so boring at the moment, and really need a few more creative players who want to fight for the badge. Yes, I agree with every one of those words. We need Wilder back quickly, says Ben, before we get relegated to League One again, which would be an absolute disaster. Now, these owners were interested in Sheffield United before we were kind of just in the top two places. This is an ownership group that came in thinking this is the side that's definitely going to get to the Premier League. But there will have been members of that board that join later on that will have thought that. I'm sure of it. And maybe it was sold to them as like, look, we're thinking of buying this English Championship team. The Championship is the league just below the Premier League. They are probably going to get promotion. Look, they're currently first. They're currently second, whatever point it was. And, we're going to invest. We're going to throw some money at a striker that we like the look of, Tom Cannon, and that'll probably just get us over the line. And then we can really speak to our guys in Silicon Valley for that investment for the Premier League. Well, that hasn't happened. And who's interested in a league that isn't the Premier League? If you are from a different country, why would you care? It would have to be something pretty exciting, a project pretty exciting. And if you're doing like an Amazon story about it, you're doing a documentary on Netflix, then yeah, you can get a few more people interested because they've heard of that. But as much as we love Sheffield United, and believe me, this is hurting so much because of how much we love Sheffield United, we aren't the biggest football team in the world, and there will be people, for example, I've just mentioned Silicon Valley, who know about the San Francisco Giants and the 49ers, but they might not necessarily know about Dave Bassett, Howard Kendall, Nigel Spatman, Adrian Heath, Steve Thompson, Neil Warnock, Mickey Adams, Danny Wilson, Chris Wilder. They might not know about the history of Sheffield United. They might not care about Sheffield United, and to throw a lot of their money at a team they're not really familiar with, why would they do that? If we're in the Premier League, it's a much easier sell. So if we go down again, that could be really, really bad. Now, that could be people leaving the board, and it could just be really, really messy. Paul says Wilder's method was uniting the fans, the players, the staff, and the owners into a club. And of course, that's what you are. We're a club, a group. And Wilder always got it. That was our strength. It's gone overnight. Fans are arguing. Yes, I have seen that. I saw some scenes at the end of the game today, which were not pleasant. Some fans being held back by friends. Players seem at odds. Sayers seems lost. One thing I did like at the end of the game was the players all came over and they stayed and they clapped. And Sayers, he just stayed looking at all the fans, maintained eye contact. It's been really easy just to go down the tunnel and forget about it. But no, that was like a case of, right, guys, heads up. We go again. It's a positive I'll take from today because there's not many. Now, Gaza makes a good point here. Stephen Bettis needs to tell us fans what's going on and what the plan and ambitions are, because this is turning into a disaster. Now, Bettis is the consistent. Bettis should know. He should know football. He should know what works and what doesn't work. And he needs to be that voice of reason, because I'm sure these owners would also say, look, we are new to this. We're going to make mistakes along the way. It's not going to be intentional, but we're going to make mistakes because it's new. It's a new thing. If I took over the Oakland Athletics, I'd make some mistakes early on before I got the recipe right. And Bettis needs to be that steady hand on the tiller and say, look, I think this would work better. And maybe that's why we're linked now with a player like Bobby Thomas, because that is a head it, kick it championship defender. That's not a fancy Dan that's going to bring the ball out and do some, Beckenbauer kind of coming out from the back and playing the ball into midfield. It's just going to be a case of see ball, kick ball. And maybe that's exactly what Sheffield United need. I don't know. Don't know how true that is as well. Is it the board's fault or is it the manager's fault? It's both, says the Lax Luther, which is probably, absolutely close to the truth. Kevin Proverbs, which is a good name, says, this is rubbish. They're lacking in good winners and players not happy with the board. Ruben Sayers, get out of my club, going down. We will not win games, selling and not buying. This is a disgrace. I am really concerned. Why are we not spending money? Is it still a hangover from that 2-point deduction? Is something going on there? I don't know. Is there a little bit more that we're not being told? And it is maybe that lack of transparency. Owners don't have to speak to fans. They don't owe us anything. But it's nice when they do, because fans are the lifeblood and the heartbeat of a football club. But they don't have to speak to us. They don't have to tell us their inner thoughts and their machinations. They can do whatever they want. Don't like the one player playing up front by themselves. Yeah, I think Ruben would argue that Barry is supporting, O'Hare is supporting, or Brooks. And at times it's a 3, and in pre-season it looked like a 3. But yeah, in reality, it's 1. Renegade B, Sheffield, so like steel, propping up the division from the bottom. King for a day, real poor players. I don't agree with that. I don't think these have become bad players overnight. There's some really good players in there. Get him out of the club, says Nick. I mean, what are you going to do here, Nick? Are we going to sack Wilder, sack Sayers? You've got to pay. Seemingly they don't want to spend a lot of money, so that's going to be costly. But this is a disaster. This is an unmitigated disaster. And Andrew says this is going from bad to worse. I don't think we're going to get anywhere with him in charge. His record isn't great at all. We need to act now and get a new manager. This was Ruben Sayers' his first real chance with, I think, a good squad, a better squad than he's had before. And that's not just me with blades-tinted glasses. It's a better squad than Reading. It's a better squad than Hull. This was a chance for him to be with a side that's actually got ambitions of not just staying up, but going up. And now it looks like he's actually going to be fighting to stay up if we carry on like this. And I don't believe we will. I am concerned, but I'm not getting there. I'm not pressing the panic button just yet. We're trying to play a high-pressing, yes, 100-mile-per-hour style of football, but we don't have the players for it. Leeds did, but they had players worth millions. We don't, apart from Gus. And I don't think Gus is actually, as Defo says, I don't think Gus is actually a player that would relish playing a 100-mile-per-hour style of football, because he is a player that likes to stop, look around, pick the perfect pass, and then in his own time, he'll get up there and he'll do some magic. But, high-pressing style is such a common term these days. I don't know if that's Gus's game. The sacking of Wilder was a gamble. The problem was finding a better alternative. Who was the better option and who was going to take over a beautiful downtown Bramall Lane? Yeah. Sayers' system is killing the players we have. He has no plan, and neither do the owners. Sack Sayers and try to salvage this season while it's early doors, says Brendan. Even with Slavica Jokanovic. Now, I'm right. I think I'm right in saying that we've only ever had 2 foreign managers. This the second. Even Slavica got until the 25th of November. How do I remember that? It's my birthday. Kevin says, time to do a car park. Well, is it shoes off time? I don't think it's quite shoes off and I've been involved in many a shoes off in my time, but it has taken more than this in the car park to get me just in socks. Alessandro, board need to get on their knees, backpedaling and grovel to Wilder to return. It'll cost you. It'll cost you. Why on earth would Wilder come back to work with the board that didn't believe in him and didn't trust him? I can't see that. He's too proud. He doesn't need it either. Don't think that's going to happen. Howard says, if we can't beat a poor Swansea, we've had it. I do agree with that. For goodness sake, get rid of Sayers. He could not manage a non-league side. This team is really going to suffer the longer he stays, says Nick. League One, here we come, says Andy. I sometimes feel like when I'm not doing these videos, like the way I actually sort of speak to my wife about this stuff is maybe a little bit different, but I'm trying to put across maybe more balance and see both sides. Too many young players, that's the problem. Need older players to guide them, says Jeff. I don't necessarily think age is it. Experience, invaluable, but just cool and calm heads. That can come at any age, and you don't necessarily need to be 37 to have a cool, calm heads. Michael, United sit at the bottom of the championship. That is where we will stay, even if a new manager was to be brought in at this very early stage, because every manager needs the full backing of the board. I agree with that. I do think there's a reason that we don't know about, that they're not spending money. I mean, is it that they just don't have that much money? Because if that's the case, we already had an owner that didn't have as much money as he would have liked, but he did tend to 60% of the time make more right decisions than wrong ones. Mike says One isn't a championship quality player. Flattered in pre-season. Maybe he did. I do think One needs a loan, but we don't have many players. So maybe that is why he is being kept for, options off the bench. John says as well as Wilder, we've lost many players and not replaced. Completely agree. We badly need the owners to dig deep and bring some new talent in that help to get us out of this utter shambles. Early days, yes, but we look so poor. Now, if you were the owner and you were looking at the finances, and for reasons I don't quite understand, because we've sold a lot of players, we've got the parachute payments, the money from telly, I don't really understand where it's all gone. I'm not an accountant and maths is not my strong point, but it doesn't make sense to me. But let's say they've looked at the finances and they go, right, we've got, let's say, 7 million. Let's say that's what they've got to play with. Why would they spend more than that? Because we might not go up, and then they're really in trouble last season of parachute payments. They might be saying, well, we've got to make it work with this squad. Maybe a couple of players in, maybe if another loan, I don't know. I do think one thing that I thought was very strange, and if you ever watched my Jefferson Caceres scouting report video, I said that I spoke to a Peruvian journalist who said that he can't understand why we've signed Jefferson Caceres because he wasn't a first teamer. And I don't remember the name of the club that we signed him from. Apologies. But he wasn't a first teamer there. So why has he gone to the English Championship? He couldn't understand it. This journalist could not understand it. Said he won't make it for you. And he didn't. And to use an ESC slot for a winger that we also signed at the same time, another winger that played in exactly the same position, who seems to have disappeared. Everything I've heard from the training ground, from people I know very well at the training ground, have said he's the best one, the Chukwu. I think that's how you say his name. But he's not involved. Maybe he's injured. Okay, again, Wilder got players to fit his system. Sayers putting square pegs in round holes. I think that's a really good point. Wilder recognised, and he was a little bit further on than Sayers, let's be fair. When Wilder first came in, we had that awful start. Bolton, Southend, Gillingham. I don't need to go through all of this with you. You remember. Wilder was playing a back four at that point, and then he changed it. He recognised, right, this isn't working. And he changed it to fit the players. Maybe Sayers will do the same. Like, Sayers likes this system because it's what he's used before. Some people would argue he hasn't had a lot of success before, so why is he sticking with it? Is the board even watching the matches? Because Sayers needs to go, says Terry. I have no idea if the board are watching the matches. I very much doubt any of them were at Swansea today, but I might be wrong. New owners are taking us back 10 years. 10 years ago, 2015, oof, yeah. We were starting to get better then, weren't we? After the players decided the manager needs to go. Maybe. Again, body language was so concerning today. It's been a long time since I've seen Sheffield United players' body language like that. I feel like there needs to be some compromises. We're not creating anything, giving up loads, not possession-based, which we were told we were going to be, and poor on the counter, which we were also told when we didn't have possession. This 100-mile-per-hour front foot football was what we were going to see. And it's not. We're not seeing this at all. And under Wilder, people used to complain that we weren't having a lot of the ball and it was boring, but we were grinding out results. Now, this is something that Carlos Arbor apparently said at the end of his co-coms on BBC Radio Sheffield today that if he was Gus Harmer's agent, he'd be looking for him to get a new club, and Gus should be on the phone to his agent saying, "Get me out of here." I don't like Carl saying that because I know Carl's like just really honest, and Carl does support Sheffield United now, which I think is great. He wasn't born in Sheffield, but he's taken the Blaze to his heart. His whole family, they all support United. I love that. Love that. And Carl's a great friend. I don't love him saying that, though. I don't think that helps anything. And I want Gus to stay. I think Gus is a diamond, an absolute pearl. Use whatever superlative you want. I don't think he works in this system, and I've already explained why a little earlier. The board are doing nothing to back their man. It's more likely Sayers just pulled the rug out from under him, says James. Slav would probably be looking at this and rocking back and laughing and saying this is very, very similar. But I think the difference there is, from what I understand anyway, as you know, I've interviewed Prince Abdullah twice on his channel. Three times, is that he told Slavisa, you're going to have to work with what you've got and you're going to have to work with this system. And Slav was like, yeah, fine. And then apparently changed his mind. Now, I don't know. I'd like Slav's side of that. And I have spoken to Slavisa, and you'll see he follows me on Twitter. But we never got into that kind of minutiae of what really happened. It's probably not appropriate to ask now. But I feel like with Sayers, it was very much a case of, right, you've got your system. We will back you. Just tell us what you want. Whoa. Not that much. Andrew says, what makes it worse? Wednesday are above us. Yeah, and actually, I said on my predictions video for the championship, which is now going to make me look like an absolute idiot because I said the Blades had finished second. And I really did believe that after a very encouraging pre-season. It was before the Nice game. That I did say that Wednesday will be galvanized because they'll feel like it's an us versus them. And I think you're seeing that in some of their performances. I thought they're pretty good on the opening day. How long do you give him if nothing changes? Genuinely, I think the board will give him 3 months. Sort of from the start of the season, not 3 months from when he was given the job. Peck has been found out a bit. Now, I think Peck's a very good player, but he's not working this season, is he? It's just not working at all. Joe, big if true, off to the pub, my mate Joe, who messaged me and described me as a masochist for still doing these match reactions. As much as I say Sayers is out of his depth, he hasn't been backed defensively where we are so weak. We are going to struggle to replace Anel. And Anel wasn't even always on it, but when he was one of our best defenders and has been one of our best defenders in recent years. We have not replaced him. And actually, why sell when you don't have to sell quickly? It's your player. Take as long as you want. But why sell when you don't have someone lined up? And if Nils Zetterstrom is who we've got lined up, he's a project. He's a project that's going to take a few years, I believe. Might be wrong. A bit wrong before. To develop. He's not championship ready. He's not getting regular game time with Malmo. And also, we knew we didn't have an ESC slot available. You'd only have 4. We'd filled all 4 with development players, which you don't need to fill these ESC slots. You don't have to. You can keep them for really good up-and-coming potential. Or you can fill them with, what the computer's thrown up as there's some real potential here. I don't know. I quite like signing for the future. But really now, this is a Sheffield United team that needs to get into the Premier League, for the money. We don't like the Premier League, but we need to be a sustainable club. And we should be in the Premier League. We're a Premier League club in all but where we actually are, the makeup of the club. I had my problems with the Prince because he didn't have the money. Yeah, and absolutely. he would also say that he didn't have as much as he'd want. But don't we all say that? But he understands football. Yes, Prince Abdullah did understand football. He'd be the Minister of Sport for Saudi Arabia. He definitely understood football. He understood the club. He did eventually. I don't know if he would have agreed with that to start with, but not only did he get Sheffield United, Prince Abdullah loves Sheffield United. He still WhatsApps me during games, and he is as frustrated as all of us. These owners don't understand football and don't have the money. Sack the board, bring back Wilder. We need a change. It may be early, but a new man in charge of football-related things is needed now, says Kevin. Don't leave it while it's too late and end up in a relegation battle. I will take a steady mid-table now. Yeah, thank God we didn't go up. Can you imagine? I think if we'd gone up, Kevin, it would have been very different. I think we'd have won the same amount of games. But we probably wouldn't have sacked Wilder. I think the board would have been very brave to have sacked Wilder after he achieved the objective. And obviously, Sayers' objective this season is promotion. Paul says, I'm worried that Peck has gone one of those seasons where he flashed, then drops off. Like a lot of young players, he needs dropping and replacing with Tim Iregbunan from Everton. Maybe sell him while he has value. If you think someone would buy him, and also if you think that's a good idea, because he's definitely still got a lot of potential. I'm concerned about Peck. He has dropped off, but I think you've got to back your own youngsters. I know he's from London, but you know what I mean. And I do think if we were just to sell Peck now, that would be quite short-sighted. I think everyone can go through a dip in form, and maybe backing him and maybe he's an arm around the shoulder player rather than a you're not good anymore, right, you go. That might not work for everyone. Mark says, the simple question is, why spend 100 million, yes, a lot of money, and then destroy everything you bought? Just what is their plan? What's their theory? What's their hope? It's insanity. Betis must come forward and make a statement. I would love that. I would love Betis to. Betis also speaks very well. Every time I hear Stephen Betis, which isn't often, I always think, yeah, he sounds like someone who really understands the game. I want him to come forward and speak to us. But I said it before, I say it again. They are under absolutely no obligation to speak to us. Who are we? They are at the moment the custodians of the club. They can do exactly what they want. Buddhist Blade 61, love it. All the blame was with the owners at the beginning of today. Now I'm not so sure. I just pity the players who seem completely confused and depressed. Minimum of 3 in for Millwall, or we're done for. They do, don't they? And actually, if you just bring in new players, but the current lot aren't buying into the system, what difference will it make? Because, you meet your new teammates and you'll be like, hey, so what do you think of the gaffer? Michael, the owners aren't coming out and speaking to the fans because it's clear they don't know the English game of football. I don't know. I don't know if they do. So some people buy football clubs and they sort of readily admit we don't know it, but we'll learn. We've seen that with Birmingham. We've seen that with Wrexham. Martin, unfortunately, as anything new, we have to give it 10 games. I think they will. I'm just worried that we won't recover if we give Sayers 10 games. I hate to say it, but Sayers does not fit the Sheffield United ethos. If we give it that long for Sayers, it might be, obviously the window will have closed, but it might be too late to make any actionable change. My mate David, how we doing, Dave? Shouldn't have let go of Anel before getting someone in. Couldn't agree more. So disjointed, still early days, but not looking good. Absolutely. Why haven't I seen you? Why haven't I seen you? Get in touch. Hanif says, not even a shot on target in 90 plus minutes. Abysmal performance. So poor. Can't see what type of game he's trying to play. Neither do the players. It did seem like that today. It really did. Now, how is it Sayers' fault that the players are actually being rubbish? Now, that is a really good question. Is it that the players are just not, because imagine you are Ruben Sayers and you're trying everything. You're at hours at the training ground. You're telling them repeatedly what to do and they're not doing it. And you're watching them put out turgid performances. Imagine, just put yourself in that position and go, I don't understand this. They played for me in pre-season. Why are they not now? Is it possible that it is the collective? I don't know. I'm just throwing the hypothesis that's been suggested there. Kenneth says, I don't know what the board were thinking, getting rid of Wilder and getting someone who only just kept Hull City up and now not replacing the players who have lost relegation springs to mind. This is a recurring theme. So many of you seem to feel exactly the same way. Sayers, waiting for the quality, not quantity signings to get over the line. Give him time. Board backed Wilder in January and we'll back Sayers as well, in my opinion. We're getting light and shade. Adam says, if board want cheap option and culture change, sack Sayers and bring in Nick Montgomery and Phil Jagielka. At least they get the club. Sayers, after match reaction, told me all I need to know. I think Nick Montgomery, who is someone I've had the pleasure of getting to know quite well over recent years, I think Nick Montgomery will one day be a very good coach. No idea about Jax. Fans for bands. We all knew we needed to strengthen the defence. I don't blame Sayers, but they have looked defeated straight from kickoff. Yeah. I kind of wish we still had Hecky as under-21 manager to step in after 10 games. It's a poison chalice, isn't it, if you step in, as you've previously been doing a job where you're very unlikely to be sacked, although currently, I don't know what's going on with our development staff. They all seem to be losing their jobs. But Hecky, if he just stayed working with the youngsters, he'd still be there working with the youngsters. When you step in as the manager and it goes wrong, you get sacked. And he's at Preston North End now, and I think he'll do maybe just enough to keep them in there. We have the players, but the change takes time, says Paul, my good friend Paul. Needs some good depth and a cracking striker. Every team needs a cracking striker. It's the hardest thing to buy. Michael says, we were worried about being docked 2 points last season. This season, we look like we're going to give the best teams a 15-point start. What a shambles our recruitment policy is. That was pathetic. It was exactly what I said at full time. Dom, I think the players are playing for the sacking of Sayers. Wow, Gus looked really angry at the end. He really did. He really did look angry. So I think in terms of Wednesday aren't above us, says PT, I haven't looked at the table. I don't look at the table till after 10 games, so I don't think I mentioned the table, to be honest. Methan says it doesn't help, but it's a point he's making out of concern. I said the same about Cooper too. It's really worrying when you don't look like spending and nothing is working so far. Greg, our press is so unorganized. They just waste energy in the wrong areas of the pitch. Yes, we need to press in periods, not constantly. Wilder found this out after the first season of the Championship. You also need a massive squad to play like this. You're absolutely right. Look at their fitness levels. You saw it today. I mean, Greg's saying here, so you can refresh at 60, which Wilder used to do, or they get burnout. They looked exhausted today, absolutely exhausted. John, that's nice. Thanks, Alan, Sheff United Way. We desperately need to vent at this difficult time. I can tell you how much it means to me when people say thank you. It really does mean a lot, and I really appreciate you. Damon says we need 3 defenders who have Championship experience. New gaffer deserves time to see if the lads can play this system. Andrew says, I can't remember. Have we bought anybody? They're all loans that we've got in. Who have we bought? Well, we bought Ukaki, and no, I now can't think either. Brains stopped working. Dom says, are the owners skint or just tight? Because since Tom Cannon, they have barely put a penny into this club. All right, now let's just do a little counter argument there. If you spent a large amount of money, which we never know exactly how these are undisclosed, these fees. We never know exactly how much Tom Cannon was. Let's just say 5 million with add-ons that will probably never be met. It's a lot of money for Sheffield United and clearly for these owners. And once bitten, twice shy. They might be reluctant now to spend big, and the hope is that actually these ESC signings, these development players, the kind of hope was they could develop quickly, not cost a lot, and maybe they are really good, work for the first team. And the way I feel like, I don't know if this is their plan, but maybe it's to develop players and sell them and just keep things going that way, which I kind of hope not, because I don't want Sheffield United to be a selling club. Luke says, just so frustrating not hearing anything about the club's plans or visions going forward. I mean, we heard initially their plans and vision going forward. I think it's frustrating now not hearing. The players are not playing to their full potential. Absolutely spot on. I mean, these are good players that were very good last season, and they haven't just become bad over 3 games. It just doesn't make sense. Luke says, feels like Sayers is being left hung out to dry, but also awful tactics. Yeah, I kind of agree with exactly that. I think Birmingham was worse because we just had nothing. And clearly wanting to get out of the cup, I think is pathetic, especially fans who pay their money to go and follow the team and you just get knocked out. I'd actually like a cup run. I know it's stupid, but winning breeds winning success. And we just looked like we just turned up to that game just to lose and get back on the bus. And the tactics, well, I think the right tactics with average players can make them look really good. Bad tactics just make good players look bad. And that's seemingly where we are at the moment. As much as things aren't happening, the fans still need to give their full vocal support and get behind the team. Absolutely. 4-hour round trip for many Blades today, and I thought they were very, very good. I appreciate all the hard work you, Nick and Ollie, do and put in. Keep up the great work. Andrew, you are a gentleman, a legend, and a scholar. Malcolm says, Kevin Birchnell, only one man could sort out this mess. And I'm afraid to say that it is Sean Dyche. Do you think so? Do you think Sean Dyche would be interested in this project? This now might look like a long-term project because we are seemingly going to have to develop players that aren't going to cost that much. If they're not going to spend a decent amount, why buy a football club? Gaza, it's a great question. And maybe they were hoping for more investment. Am I right in thinking that Rosen has pulled out of this ownership group? That's something I read. Did I write it? I can't remember. But if that's true, that's one down. We've got James Board, the name's Board, James Board, who's like the co-owner of Dunfermline, also on our board. That's not easy to say now with his surname. And Jefferson Caceres has gone to Dunfermline. I don't know how I feel about that. That feels like that would be the only team that would have taken him. And we won't have made our money back on him because it's probably £1 million that we spent there. I just don't understand the gaffer's tactics. We created nothing today. We really did. We created absolutely nothing. Last 4 games, played 4 and 4 lost. You are just unlucky, says Lee. Maybe. Up the Blades, says Michael. And you know what? That is a really good place to end it. As always, thank you very much for your support. Check out our audio podcast if you haven't already. I'm sad. Olé, olé, olé.